some Bengals news. At the Growler, we got you. Hot takes, interviews from your host, Paul Dey Jr.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Dey Nights. Paul Dehner Jr. here with you, Mark Shalafu, Charlie Goldsmith, Jay Morrison. We're doing it again. It's 4 nights in a row, and we have perhaps less news tonight than we had last night. Who thought it was possible? But I believe in us. I believe in us, guys. I believe that we can get through this. We can do this tonight. We've got a plan. We're going to keep this interesting because the people need us. I think that was it. When I was looking at the lack of news, I was like, do we not do it? Do we do it? I was like, look, I think the people have never needed us more, guys.
I think they're going to turn on us pretty soon. They're mad at the Bengals right now. It's only going to be so long before they start turning on us.
Very interested to see the comments tonight. Should be fun.
Yes,
I think this might be our most fun show.
Yeah, we're here for the Growl Pals that, need to vent and are not having the most fun. Marco Wilson Day was almost Marco Wilson week, but at least we got one signing right under the gun right before we started. So it's not a total wash. We do have some good news to discuss. And I'm with you, Charlie. We're going to have fun either way. We're going to be here for the people just like we pledged to be. We're going to come through.
This is great. It's going to be a good show when I open the comments and the first thing I see is Fire Marvin. That's great. We're back, baby. Let's go. Shout out to you. Great comment there, Tommy. So all right. I want to just remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for joining us. And if you're just finding us, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell and all that stuff. And so you can catch us whenever we go live. As we're planning one more night tomorrow night. And then we're just an emergency podcast season because who knows how long we can't do this forever. Okay. We've got a little bit of this, but we can't do it forever. But make sure you're subscribed and, go to hit our QR code over here on the side and you can go find us on all of your podcast platforms, support our partners that we have and everything else up there. So make sure you check that out. We'll be back tomorrow. Our guy, Eric Stanio, Keller Williams, going to hop in tomorrow in his normal Dey Light spot. So we'll get to, and he's got something to say that Bengals fans are really going to like. I'm very, very excited for the Clanyo Stanio to come on tomorrow. It's going to be great.
Not that he doesn't always have things that people like to hear on our show, but it is going to be even more.
This one is going to be amped
normal,
up. Yeah. I'm making promises. This is real. This is a report. This isn't a prediction. Okay. I'm reporting that Mr. Stanio is going to come on tomorrow and Bengals fans are going to really like what he has to say. That's what I'm saying. Okay. The news that just broke, I think the Bengals felt bad. I think they were like, look, we got to give these guys something. Okay. We can't have it be another Marco Wilson episode. But so right before we came on, Cam Sample re-signs with the Bengals. Yay. Let's hear it. You know what? Congrats to Cam, who had the Achilles injury last year and can make it back. And who knows, we'll see how much juice he has left in him. But Charlie, you said it before we came on, feels like he's going to make the team.
I mean, you know what the Bengals love, and they love a good physical, strong edge setter, and that's what Cam is. And I just real quick, as you were talking about Daniel's exciting future, I went through my Cam Sample notes, and boy, there were a lot of glowing Zach Taylor quotes for a fit defensive end. I was just brushing through these glue guy about everything that we're about, under the radar, dirty work guy. Like a lot of Cam Sample notes for a player that honestly wasn't on my mock off season checklist for the Bengals.
Lou Anarumo loved him too. He always signaled out Cam, and I hate it for Cam because everybody is so upset about what's not being done. It's a quality depth signing, a guy that he is a glue guy. He is the kind of guy you need on your team. He's not going to be a huge difference maker, but you need these depth guys, and I think it's great for him to come back from the Achilles and be ready to go and sign a deal. And it just sucks that it's framed in this manner when there's nothing else going on and people are actually angry at Cam because of what's not being done elsewhere.
I don't think it's personal towards
no, it's not, but they're just angry.
Yeah, they do catch a lot
it's not your fault, Cam. It's not your fault. Okay. All right. So that's news there. He'll jump into the mix. The real news really from a Bengals perspective today is somebody that Charlie, I know we spent a ton of time on. We both landed on this guy when we did our defensive tackle series, as really what we felt like was the best fit because he was young. He had pass rush juice. He seemed to be on the rise. He was kind of starting to grow into himself a little bit. It seemed like a former premium pick from Detroit, Levi Onwuzurike. I'm glad I don't have to keep doing it. 1 year, $5.5 million to return to Detroit. That was a stunner. That was when it went from, okay, free agency, they're just a little slow to act, to what exactly is going on here? You know, how that wouldn't be something that you wouldn't hop in and offer a touch more to try to go take him from Detroit when you consider what he could give you, blend him into the rotation, get a little bit more depth and competition in there. I don't know. Am I the only one here that felt a little shocked that the Bengals weren't more involved in that one? That felt like it would have made a ton of sense. Bengals 1 year, 7, you know?
Yeah, 7 or 8. I mean, I was stunned to see what he signed for. And, you know, it is a little bit of a hometown discount. He liked it in Detroit. He wanted to stay there. I get that. He signed there for a little bit less, but hometown discounts aren't half off. I mean, you said it, Paul, 7, 8, they could have had him for. Why not? 1 year. What's I don't get it. I don't understand why that's not a guy. A lot of guys like that are out there, but that guy in particular, we all talked about how we felt like he was the best fit for this team. And to just say, no thanks on that price point, it's a head scratcher.
So based on his film, there was absolutely no reason why he should be making anything less than 10 this year, which clearly to me shows that we see this in free agency. We see this in the draft. Medicals often come up and are a part of this conversation. And Onwuzurike was a guy who I believe missed all of 2022 at the back. Yep. Injuries kind of were the story of his career. So I bet there was something going on there. But if you're the Bengals, are you willing to take that risk? And to me, that kind of hits on the theme of the week is, man, the Bengals have done some incredibly safe things. They got a gap filler. They brought back their own guys. They got a linebacker 3 in Oren Burks with very little upside, but can play winning football and special teams if you're in a pinch. Like, they've done very safe things. Meanwhile, you know, not to compare the Bengals to the Eagles again, but you've seen the Eagles take a lot of risks in free agency, and risks don't have to be $20 million moves. Risks can be $8 million moves. So to me, it's not just Onwuzurike. He's a part of a trend for this Bengals free agency theme for me, which is, when are the Bengals going to stick their neck out for structuring a contract the way they should structure a contract for with their stars, for signing a type of player and finding that unexpected value? This is just a part of all that trend.
Yeah, maybe there was some concern. You bring up the medical stuff. Maybe there's some stuff there that maybe they heard some rumors that he's prone to viral meningitis and they don't want to get burned again. So they're really afraid to go down that well. I'm trying to make sense of it, and there's got to be a good reason.
The other thing is, when you look at it, is the bottom line is no one was willing to go there with him. So we can, it's not like this is a league that the rest of the league doesn't want young up and coming pass rushers. I mean, these guys that have his profile are getting paid 10, 15, 17 million dollars. I mean, Javon Kinlaw, like, you look at what $15 million a year for Javon Kinlaw, and you have, the profile that you saw here, and it's 1 year, 5.5. The fact that the rest of the league wasn't as in on him, I don't get the sense, asking around, that it was an injury thing. Maybe it's just people weren't as impressed with some of the tape and didn't see the same things that a lot of us did. But we certainly weren't the only ones. And you look at just how much the Bengals need that and how much he seems to fit exactly what you thought they'd be looking for. That was the stunner. So that was kind of stunner 1 to me. And then 2, it kind of, then now you start to see the guard market start to move. And we've been talking about this, and you're listening to a good podcast when you get 3 days in a row of good guard talk. Okay. And that's what we're here to bring to you. But Kevin Zeitler signs Tennessee 1 year, $9 million. And okay, that's fine in and of itself. Congrats to Callie, who's kind of rebuilt that line a little bit down there, and spent on that to try to make it happen. But you have a Bengals guard group candidates that is getting notably thin. Okay. I mean, where we're at the point where you could argue, and James did with me today on the internet, they need 2, not just 1, and that's fine. Like, I don't necessarily deny that. They have 2 open spots. They have 2 open starting spots. I see 2 guys really that you would be really comfortable putting out there and say, this is definitely going to be my start of the day. You sign them. Maybe 3 if you're willing to buy some Will Hernandez. But like, Brandon Sheriff, who we've talked about on this show, and Tevin Jenkins, who we know that they're in discussions with, are the only 2 I see. When it starts getting that thin, it gets quite dangerous when you're talking about protecting Joe Burrow, and something that it seemed pretty clear they were going to be aggressively going after that position, at least one of them in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, the Zeitler thing, okay, so say Alex Kappa played at his 22, even his 23 level this past year. Are you comfortable keeping him at an $8.3 million cap hit this year? Probably. So Kevin Zeitler's 9. I just don't. That's another one that's a head scratcher. That why not? I know he's older. He's probably about 3-4 years older than Alex Kappa, but now you are putting yourself in this position. You're kind of forcing yourself to do what you don't want, you don't like to do, and that's bid over the value you have on a player. Now, I don't know how many other teams are out there still trying to grab a guard or 2, but it gets down to these final 2. And if teams start panicking saying, hey, we've got to get one of these 2, just like the Bengals are, you're going to end up paying more for one of them than you wanted to in the first place.
First, I have a hard time believing that anyone who Brian Callahan and Bill Callahan would take this offensive staff wouldn't, because of the crossover there, even down to Scott Peters, who learned everything he knows from Bill Callahan. For me, it's sure for bust. I shared my thoughts on Jenkins yesterday. Becton's fine, and I might be able to talk myself into that, but he doesn't seem to be a scheme fit at all either. Here are the rest of the guys. You have Dalton Risner, who started for a playoff team that the story of their season was how their guard play was a disaster. You had Shaq Mason, who allowed the second most sacks of any guard in the league behind Alex Kappa. And the story of their season was in Houston, how their guard play was a disaster. You have Will Hernandez, a 29-year-old coming off a torn ACL. You have Dylan Radins, a guy who in Tennessee wasn't supposed to start last year until their starter retired in the summer. You have Liam Eichenberg, who got benched in training camp. You have Greg Van Roten, a 34-year-old who has spent his whole career playing for terrible lines. You have Daniel Brunskill, who Callie thought would be his backup center last year before Tennessee's line crumbled. And you have Matt Pryor, who's a career backup who was forced into time on a terrible Bears offensive line last year. Like, I like Cody Ford more than all those guys, and Cody Ford was not supposed to be the best free agent the Bengals side.
Yet here we are. Right. I mean, and that's kind of the point of all of this is you end up in this situation and whether they wait it out, how long it takes. I'm not, and I want to ask you guys about sort of your panic meter. I got the panic button out. I'm sure Bengals fans are like, panic. I hit that thing 4 days ago. Okay. Like I don't need it now. I haven't hit it yet, but I do think you got, like, to me, the Sheriff thing, if that drops and they don't get him or they don't get Tevin Jenkins, I'll give you that, because I know there's lots of people that are on board with him, and obviously they're at least talking to his camp and seeing where they end up there. I don't know if they're going to get that or not, because they're not the only team involved, but if those go, and now you've added that problem to what you already have on defense, you end up where I don't know where all the answers are coming from. And you're just creating problems for yourself that you thought should have been easy enough to fix. And that's when the panic starts. So I'll start with you, Mark. I'll let you start it off here. 1 to 10, 10 being you are just pounding the panic button on your head, and 1 being like, you know what, everything is fine. Me and Jay are doing LSD later, right? Like, okay, we'll see.
Okay, I like that. I like that too.
Yeah,
gosh,
no, but not in a good way.
Ends.
Not a fun LSD hang.
Yeah. Okay.
Where are you at?
Right now, I'm probably a 9, because that's what this week is for. If you're not going to go crazy, if something's not breaking your way, then what's the point of being disciplined and waiting just to see how all the chips fall before you really make your judgments? Of course I'm panicking. I really thought that the T thing would get settled by now. I thought they'd make some bigger move, but there is still a path out of this. There still is a possibility that they do get a guard or two and get a few more impact players, get their own guys taken care of. That all can still have a happy ending. It is putting a lot of faith in, the front office and giving a lot of benefit of the doubt there, because I've had that belief before where I'm like, this is going to get figured out. And then Jamar Chase was just wearing a cap for all of training camp. So it doesn't always break the way that you think it's going to break. I'm still hopeful that maybe it can still shake out, but it's that path to being not a disastrous offseason just gets slimmer and slimmer. And this Dey Night show was supposed to be this fun, Dey Light vibe. And we're starting to get into that Dey Dark territory with some of this.
It's getting very Dey Dark. Charlie, what's your number right now?
I'm at an 8.5, because where's this defense good? Like, I think the strength of the Bengals defense right now is at cornerback, and the cornerbacks all got benched for each other at different points of last season.
Boy, that's a tough sentence to have to say out loud.
Like even at this point last year, like the Bengals thought the strength of their defense was Wilson and Pratt. Like that's what they thought at this point last year. They at least had something core foundational segment of the defense to build around. And I still have no idea who this team's number 2 linebacker is going to be. Whoever it is, whether it's Pratt, any of the free agents left, Oren Burks, or a draft pick, you're taking a risk there. The Bengals, by bringing Cam Sample back, well, now it sounds like all of the upgrade for their pass rush is going to have to come from draft picks at end and tackle, because Sample's not providing that. Hill's the diminishing pass rusher from what he was. Hendrickson, what a season. Is Hendrickson going to do it again next year? We've had that conversation. And then an ascension from Miles Murphy maybe offsets some of that. But for a pass rush that was already bad, you have to get all that from the draft. Justin Simmons is the only other free safety left that I think is better than Geno Stone. So you're having the same guys at safety. So you're going to have to be scoring, 35 points a game to win. And so Joe Burrow is going to have to throw 50 times. And now you're right back in the problem you were in last year with who knows who blocking Cam Hayward and getting pummeled into the dirt. So I'm at an 8 because the paths to get out of this are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And maybe I've spent all day trying to find the path, but it's getting really hard to find.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Charlie. I was going to say 8.5 too. I was going to kind of go in between 8 and 9, and it's for this reason. There's one of two things happening. Either the Bengals are saying it's fine, we're good, we don't need to sign anybody, which is panic level, or they're really, really trying and they can't get it done. Either they can't get guys that they want, or they're chickening out on the bidding once it gets to a certain level. They're not closing the deal. That's panic level. The fact that whichever reason that they're sitting where they are right now without any significant additions, I don't know. Slayton is a significant addition, but the fact that we're sitting where we are right now, one of those two things is happening, and neither one of them is good.
Yeah, I'm in the 7.5, because I still think if you get Sheriff, or Jenkins is fine. Like, you get one of the guards. I feel really good about the state of the offense. That they have it's just a way bigger bet on Al Golden than I ever thought they'd be making. Like, this is, I get saying, hey, get more out of the young guys, develop the young guys, and got the new DC, and that's going to be really what changes the whole vibe here, and everybody's going to play better because of that. I'm here to listen to that. Like, I think that was needed, but you can't make this big of a bet on that. Like, that is a lot of just all of a sudden going to make magic happen out of these players. I think you could count on that for a player or two, or some scheme fits that maybe guys are just a little bit more attention to detail, a little bit more on their P's and Q's, just because the new guy's there. But you also don't know if he's going to mesh with people that were previously good. We don't know what the hell is going to go on with Trey Hendricks's point of view, like what they're going to be asking. That doesn't even get into the fact that the 3 biggest situations of the offseason are not even anywhere close to resolved right now. We still have T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and Jamar Chase hanging out there without any idea where those things are going at this current moment. So it's just, I think that the things that we're going to end up talking a lot about, some of them have happened, but the majority of them haven't even happened yet. And maybe that's kind of where I'm at with it. Get the line, And so the offense is probably going to be right. And I think I can feel okay with it, knowing that there was always going to be a bet made on Al Golden making a difference. It's uncomfortable thinking that it's this big of one and you just don't really see where some of the answers are totally coming from. So we're all up there high. But I do think there is still time to see some things start to work themselves out. They just aren't going to come at the top of free agency. And,
I agree the offense will be fine if they get a veteran guard. It's still a bet on having some sort of either rotational or starting offensive guard, which is, through a mid or early round pick, which is something the Bengals have done a poor job doing historically. But then with the defense too, what we all I think individually laid out was the vision of a young defense that could grow together. And the longest term deal they've handed out on defense was to 30-year-old BJ Hill. And TJ Slayton's on a 2-year contract. And just Fasai's on a 1-year deal. Even if he belongs in that core, he's only under contract for a season. So the Bengals haven't even built towards the long run of this defense. And you mentioned the things that it's a bet on Al Golden. It's also a bet on them drafting, because I'm looking at this right now. They're betting on all of their pass rush upgrades, like I've said, to come from from a rookie edge rusher and defensive tackle. Sounds like they're going to be having a rookie linebacker playing a heck of a lot of snaps. Do they have a safety in there competing with Geno Stone? Like maybe in an ideal world, you have a third safety on a rookie contract in there somewhere. Like the Bengals haven't had 3 draft picks on defense they can count on in like the last 4 drafts, let alone that would be 4 guys right away who you'd be counting on in year 1.
All right. Let's take a time. It really has. I think it'd be funny. We should go back and just splice together from Sunday night to tonight how we've gotten progressively darker and further every night as we're like trying to assess the answers that are disappearing as we go. But let's do this. The linebacker situation, we've kind of touched on it here or there. That's kind of the one thing that's hanging out there. And I wonder where the answer is coming there. It feels like something that's got to be kind of in the works at some point. Because the Jermaine Pratt cut trade thing is just kind of weirdly hanging out there. And it feels like there has to be some kind of a move that's going to be associated with that coming soon. And I don't know what the list specifically looks like there of available players. You start to ask questions like, well, if maybe you're trading Jermaine Pratt, is there another team that could have some kind of a trade involved? Is there a way you could make some kind of a move there to go off list? Because you got to start finding creative solutions to some of this stuff, because the list is not going to make everybody super excited.
Yeah, I mean, there was another linebacker out there, that Tyrell Dodson, and I thought he would be a fit. And what did he sign for?
2 for $8. Yeah.
2 for $8, so $4 million a year. That's an easy grab, and it's another one that would have been an easy grab that they didn't take. And I do think that's not necessarily. I think guard has to get done. I could see them just going into the draft and saying we talked about this last night, go back to that old 3rd round linebacker and get a guy there. There's just, Charlie knows this better. Charlie, you've got that whole list of linebackers. I just don't know that there's a difference maker out there right now that would be in their price range.
Yeah, I don't think there is. The best linebacker out there is the guy you made the joke of Arizona spending on Akeem Davis-Gaither to replace. The one name the one name who popped up today is CJ Mosley. Now, injuries were a huge part of his 2024 season. He got outplayed and the scheme looked a whole lot better with Sherwood coming out of nowhere. And is that a reflection on Mosley? But he's a captain. He's been an every down player. He brings that physicality and that edge. But other than that, I mean, the one area you saw movement in today was the mid-range linebacker market, where you thought the Bengals would be playing 2 for $8 for Dotson, 1 for $3 for Justin Sternad, 1 for $3 for Christian Roseboom, 1 for $4 for Denzel Perriman, 2 for $6 for Troy Dye. And you saw no action for the Bengals there. Other names I have on here are, Joe Bacci, who we've talked about, David Long, who the Bengals coaches have hated playing against, but he failed a physical and got waived last year. Does Al have an idea for Isaiah Simmons? Like, this is the level the Bengals are talking about with linebacker, or more likely, it sounds like banking on rookies, which this Bengals defense hasn't in a few years.
they have to draft other positions. Like it's like at some point you can't keep banking.
Yeah.
They only have 6 picks.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know where you're gonna like think that you can just keep plugging. Oh well, let's put a rookie in here at guard. Let's put a rookie in here at defensive tackle. Another edge to rush the passer. Okay, we need a rookie at linebacker. Well, I'm to the 5th round now. All right, and you can't be counting on anything at that point. I just it feels I'm not giving them this credit because we haven't seen that to this point, but it feels like there's something else that has to be cooking there for this to be going on this long and there to not be any sort of movement or answer. But
and real quick,
we'll
that draft point you made was the whole reason for the theory of trade Hendrickson, pick up an extra second, spend $16 million on a pass rush.
Right. No, I mean that was part of it, but you also weren't thinking that you were not having another guy there. And so, but
there have been years
for a previous day.
There have been years where they get stuck into that because there is one glaring weakness. I mean, like the run defense last year, and now all of a sudden you're forced to solve that through the draft. And you're kind of, you have to take a guy, maybe reach on a guy that you didn't necessarily want to have to there. But when you have holes up and down the defense and guard, like, and now all of a sudden you can take best player available because there's just holes all across the board.
There are.
So there's
So
a guy.
exciting.
A guy we haven't really talked much about. I want to see what you guys thought about him, but undrafted guy last year, Muma Shangmeta. I thought he was really impressive for what he was. Now he's not going to be, but do you think they're really high on him and they think he can be one of those guys that?
I mean, they're maybe high on him, but what are we talking? Have we reached the Muma's the answer?
That's a very
no,
Bengals
but I'm just saying.
feature.
Do you think he could be a piece, a guy that you could count on a regular basis
To do what?
to play linebacker? I know he's small.
Not as the starter. I mean,
No.
yeah. As a backup, like I'm fine with Muma as a backup. And maybe maybe he is the guy. Maybe he's like Vinny Ray, right? Maybe he just kind of undrafted guy, works his way up, becomes more of a contributor. But in fairness, and Lord knows, I love Vinny Ray as much as any player that's come through here. Even he was never really counted on. He had to always kind of become that guy during seasons when he was asked to be that. And that's fine if that's who Muma is. But I don't think we can get into that as the answer. It certainly can't be, at this point, in the summer. You've got to have other ideas of where that thing, other than that bet. I understand what you're saying, though, Jay. Like he's in the mix. But I just think there has to be something coming over the top of that. All right. Making sure no other news has happened. We haven't had any other people that we have to react to.
It is going to happen.
I'm going to guess that it hasn't.
As a joke, when
nothing
nothing happened today, I put in the rundown to discuss Reds return Cooper Bowman to Oakland.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I mean,
Gosh,
guys,
there's not even other fun things. Like UC basketball, was awful today too. Like all of Cincinnati is just not fun sports times lately.
We did get to interview BJ Hill today, though. So BJ Hill had a little Zoomer with us after they officially announced him. Do want to just bring in a piece of BJ Hill from today and kind of what he had to say in the Zoom with some of our local reporters, and we'll offer some BJ Hill thoughts coming your way.
Trey's my guy, man. He helped me the last couple of weeks just think about things what y'all be thinking about, how to go through this process over again, give me advice, even though I already been through it. But he really just helped me a lot. And he means the world to me. Pretty much one of my brothers. And got nothing but respect for him.
What's the best piece of advice he gave you?
Just go with your heart, man. To be honest, you know where you want to be at. You know what you want to do. And if that's Cincinnati or not, like, just go with your heart, man, and pray about it. And, man, that helped me.
BJ, when you went through and looked at the defensive line and kind of how y'all were last year, what's the thing that maybe you feel like y'all really need to hone in on this offseason and y'all would like to be better at as a unit going into next year?
We were kind of young a little bit. I think the experience from last year is definitely going to pay off, man. I'm excited for those two young guys from last year. Miles, he's still a young guy, so I know he's going to pick it up this coming up year. We got Joseph back, still young and still playing really good ball. Man, I'm so excited for this group.
BJ, you said that you and your family love Cincinnati and it made you want to stay here. What was it that you loved so much about this place or the organization or both?
Skyline Chili, come on, man. Nah, the coaching, the players, the atmosphere, the fans, the food, the traffic, everything about Cincinnati. We really love it. The schools for my kids, the way they just treat us and just love on us, man. We really do love it.
Hey, BJ, every year in free agency, a lot of the talk right up there with can this guy play? What's his character like? Is how old is he? And you're about to turn 30 next month. Do you think too much is made of that age 30 barrier for guys?
Age is just a number. At the end of the day, man, I feel good. You also got to realize, beginning of my career, I didn't really play that much anyway. So, just picking up the last couple of years, I still got a lot left in the tank, man. I got at least 5 to 6 more years to play this game, and I'm playing that, not slowing down, just keep on getting better and better each and every year.
You said you've been in contact with Trey Hendrickson. How, obviously, he's, his name is out there. People are talking about him and his situation. How is he, based on what you've noticed, how is he handling this whole situation and this uncertainty, if you will?
I think he's doing a great job, man. I think Trey, he wants to be in Cincinnati. I know it for a fact. He loves Cincinnati. He loves the fans. He loves the community. He loves the team.
There's BJ Hill talking today about returning to Cincinnati. What stood out to you, Jay, from hearing from BJ today? Anything?
The fact that he has been in contact with Trey, and that Trey is, I don't think anybody's surprised by that. He said it when he made the rounds. He does want to stay here. You would think a guy with that production that does want to stay here, they would figure out a way to make that happen. But I think that it just shows kind of where these guys are in terms of, Trey's talking to him about the contract situation and tell him to follow his heart, and that they're staying in contact as they're both trying to navigate the next chapter in their career. Gives you a little hope that maybe this does come back around and Trey does land here. I thought it was a good point too. We talk about this all the time with running backs, where the wear and tear, they get to the certain age, and the Bengals have always been big on guys that split carries in college. And because of the wear and tear. And I thought it was a good point that BJ brought up, that he barely played his first few years in the league. So yes, he turns 30 next month, but it doesn't feel like he's got the wear and tear on him the normal 30-year-old would. Now, I don't know about 5 or 6 more years and getting better every year as it goes. I think every player says that, but I do think that played into the factor of why the Bengals were willing to go there. 3 years, $33 million on a guy that's 30.
My biggest priority for the Bengals defense, even before I got to, pass rush, corner, and trust me, I've expressed my concerns about all those spots, but my biggest priority was leadership. And this was the defense that I couldn't name a single guy who was going to be a captain in 2025. Well, now I'll write BJ Hill's name and pen on that list, I think. Like, I had a lot of conversations like with Sam Hubbard over the years about just what BJ Hill meant to the room. A great example was like the Giants game last year. They're 1-4. The team's dead. And sure, part of it was a revenge game, but really more of it was that's just who BJ Hill is. His energy in the first quarter willed that defense to have a smidge of belief. And that really meant something that day. Burrow went out and praised it after the game. And again, that's who BJ is. So I do think it's kind of going to be in some ways like he's going to be one of, if not the voices of the defense. And that's really important. And that's the biggest reason to bring BJ Hill back.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Charlie, because I can think of multiple times, and I don't know how many times you go over to BJ's locker. He's over in this corner, and all the young defensive linemen are all right near them. You can't talk to BJ without like the young guys chiming in or some back and forth between them. You can sense like how good the chemistry is between those guys and how much pride he takes over trying to be a mentor, and like losing that, if you're counting so much on Chris Jenkins and on McKinley Jackson, losing that, I do think that would impact those guys negatively when you're already losing Sam Hubbard in there where maybe they could feel a little lost in their career. So I'm with you, Charlie. I think that's a good observation because they need that. They need something like that in the room. They could also use a pass rusher, but that doesn't mean that it isn't still important to have exactly that. And he is a core part of that.
I think at this point, do you want to take some questions from the
let's
Growl
drop
Pals?
in. Have you been any good stuff in there?
So if you guys have questions you want us to tackle, throw them out now. Going to our guy Stanio first. More of a comment.
Yeah, my low back can attest that age is not just a number. Mine too, Mr. Stanio. All right, this one from Tyler. Which players in the market currently have more potential than their stats reflect due to coaching circumstances and the limitations of their teammates? What do you guys think? Jay, you got one?
I mean, guys that are gone. I don't know who's left in the market that still kind of fits that. Maybe Tevin Jenkins. I know Charlie wasn't that high on him, but he's a guy that's still coming off his first contract, and you could see there could still be some growth there. Chicago has not been a great organization, so maybe Scott Peters can get something out of him. I really thought Dodson. I mean, I hate to keep going back to him, but I thought he was a guy that had a lot of upside at linebacker. You know, beyond that, most of the guys that fit those parameters they've been signed, and I don't know. I will disagree a little bit. You guys going back to offensive tackle. I know that was an issue with the Vikings this year. But Dalton Reisner, he missed the first 7 games because he got hurt in training camp, and he played sparingly in the next 2. So he was really like in games 10 through 17, kind of working his way back. And I thought he played decent. I don't think he was the reason. Now that Detroit game in week 18 was awful, but he's a guy that he is up there. I think he just turned 30. But he's a guy that I do think has a little bit left in the tank that is still out there that would not cost a lot. I still think that, the other guys you guys already talked about would be Sheriff and Jenkins would be the better options, but he's another guy that I think could be a sneaky grab.
If I could add one guy to this defense, it'd be the Darius Smith. Now, my question is, with Cam Sample now back and a likely draft pick there, is there room for another veteran edge? That's a question we'll have to answer, but you look at his pressure consistently last year. You look at Smith getting pressure both from the end position and from the tackle position. The fact that he's 272 pounds, the physicality that he brings to the edge, when he'd probably be their second best, or he would be their second best pass rusher behind Trey Hendrickson. Then at safety, I've made my Justin Simmons case yesterday. Looking deeper into the market today, like if you want a third safety who could really be a deep post guy, like I found the name Jalen Hawkins. He was the leader on the Patriots in free safety snaps last year. The Patriots were 3rd in the NFL in pass defense on deep balls. So Hawkins was clearly playing a big role in that. Now he's a bit of a journeyman, but he's wiry. He seems to be fast. Maybe that's a nice piece that could round out the room. But Smith raises your floor. I think anyone else on defense would be a bit of not a risk, but a guy who would not surely be a full-time starter except for like Smith or Simmons.
Josh Uche is somebody who I've talked about before, who I think could be, maybe he could give you certainly more than he gave anybody last year. And maybe that's something. I think it is Justin Simmons because he has the potential to make Charlie chug a beer on this show. And that is the type of thing that I can get behind. So that's my answer on that one. What else do we got here?
Next question's from Nick. He wants to know, can the front office actually see or hear the fans crashing out right now? I'm not sure that they would care all that much, but how much of all this negative chatter do you think breaks through to them at all?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to know. I don't think, if there's an ownership group when you get between Mike and Katie and Troy, that have proven over time they aren't gonna do what the fans, just because fans are yelling anything about them like it's them. They're not going to be affected by that. They're going to do what they think is right to win games for the football team. I do think Elizabeth and Caroline are very much in touch with how the fans are acting. That doesn't necessarily mean it will change the way the team acts, but I think that's probably that's the entry point for the awareness into the ownership room would be my guess, outside of just everyone coming across it because it's everywhere. But I think that's probably your entry point there. That'd be my thought on it.
They're different things. Like, yes, you mentioned the fan base crashing out, Nick, but like, this might come across as the chat won't like this, but like the front office really wants to win. And the front office knows that this T. Higgins deal hasn't gotten done in 3 years. And the front office knows how much Jamar Chase's price tag has gone up and the agitation and uncertainty around the Trey Hendrickson situation. And they know that this team hasn't gotten much better in free agency. So they're not crashing, but certainly, there's got to be awareness of the fact that the Bengals haven't put themselves in a position to be better in 2025.
You know who's fully aware of what the fans think is the social media team. They're the ones taking the brunt of this right now.
Can we all just lift up some prayers for the poor admins? Like, what a tough run it is right now for them. There's no, like, you work for like weeks on a video for like BJ Hill or Mike Gesicki or whatever, and then you just watch it just fill up with all the nasty negative, and it's like, oh, this is just it's not their fault. They're just doing the tweets.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean,
that engagement is still engagement.
That is engagement. That's right.
You can see the pressures.
It's very clear that fans still care. Apathy has not set in yet. That's apparent.
I mean, you see some of the players having to respond to all the negativity. Marco Wilson tweeted during our show, but just something about how the big contracts take time. And so, like, we've talked about it here. That is a bummer for those guys that should have their moment, but they're getting a lot of stuff in their mentions about, making fun of the signings or this or that. And, if it's not breaking through their front office, it's definitely breaking through to some of the players on the team.
Maybe Marco Wilson will be the one that truly calms down the fans. This will be Marco Wilson week. Like, he came in, they signed him, and he just showed all these intangibles.
He saves us all.
He was able to calm everybody down. And it's just like, you know what? If Marco says it's going to be okay, I believe it's going to be okay. And we'll always remember it for that. I love the idea. We got a new one here. What do we got?
This is from Drew. He says, I'm sure everybody's going to be asking this, but has the Tevin Jenkins situation progressed at all?
I mean, it's still sitting out there right now. I think it's probably going to sit out there for a little bit. I mean, they're going to sift through whatever the offers are over there. No, I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's an urgency that it's going to get resolved right away. But sometimes it just happens in a split second where all of a sudden they make a decision. So I don't know. It's just sort of right now there's offers out there, and I'm sure that some teams are waiting to see where it ends up.
Do we have any Growl pals willing to camp out at Kenwood Mall and let us know when he shows up?
Yeah, that would be huge. We do need to get the Growl pals on the streets is what we need to do.
Joe Burrow buying cookies and cupcakes?
Yeah, let's go. I don't know if I've got another Kenwood Mall Saturday in me, but I appreciate the idea. That's for sure. What do we got here?
This is from Adam. What has to happen by this weekend in order for the fan base to step back from the cliff?
I mean, I can't speak for people on cliffs. I don't know. I mean, I think just take a drink, relax, go outside. Go for a walk, right?
Yeah.
Do an Aaron Rodgers. Go for a nice long walk. Right. And think about it and just think about other things, hug your children, right? Let's find our friends. Let's go have some drinks with your friends and just take your mind off of it. I recommend that to step, but don't be on a cliff over football. It's no place to be. It's no place to be.
We appreciate all the
shut
passion.
up, clown.
We appreciate all the passionate football fans that have tuned into, all of these shows and continue to do so. So
you're right.
I'm
sorry.
Gonna be on a cliff,
come back tomorrow.
That's what
just come back tomorrow. We'll tell you then. What else do we? Any more?
So this one, Tommy wants to know thoughts that you guys might have on the Steelers bringing in DK Metcalf, potentially Aaron Rodgers. We did get a good email question about, the fact the Bengals aren't doing much. What's the rest of the conference doing? Who do you think, or were there any moves that you think should really instill fear in the Bengals?
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, the big one. The
good news is if it ends up being Rodgers in Pittsburgh and whatever the hell happens in Cleveland, you can at least say that you feel like you have the second best team in the North. At the very least, you can feel that. Rodgers is not going to be the answer in Pittsburgh if that's where it ends up. Charlie, I'm still eating the Jets take from last year, and I'm out.
Surprised you did it.
I'm out forever. I'm out forever on even thinking that Aaron Rodgers can bring anybody together anymore. I'm over. I recognize my faults on that one. But
obviously the Bengals have no interest in trading him. But man, this would have been the perfect offseason for a Jake Browning trade rumor to get out. It was right there, and obviously it hasn't happened. And the Bengals, again, they love him, but it's right there. He's better than all these guys, or a lot of these guys.
I am here for 2 games every year of Cam Taylor-Britt against DK Metcalf. After the way they went at it at that game a couple of years ago, and seeing those guys go head-to-head 2 games every year, that would be fun.
I'm absolutely here for that. That would be awesome. Jake Browning to Cali in Tennessee, right? They do. They seem to be. I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe with Kirk Cousins. I guess we don't know where that ends up yet. But unless something happened that I missed. But it feels like Cam Ward is kind of where it's positioning, where they're going to give Tennessee and the number 1 overall, give Cali another shot with the number 1 overall quarterback.
All right, next question is from Gavin. Is covering this team as exhausting as being a fan of it?
It is right now.
Was it fun today looking at backup free safety options? No, it was not. Specifically, the Bearcats game was on.
Some days are better than others. All right. Some days are better than some days. You get to go cover a game in LA and go to a nice restaurant and have lunch on the beach and then go see a game in a beautiful $1 billion stadium and enjoy that and then send that expense report back to the company. Those days are good. Days like today are a little bit on the other side of it sometimes, but that's okay. No one's complaining. No one's complaining. It's not that exhausting. We know what's on the other side of it. So
this is what we signed up for.
It's what we signed up. Absolutely. Of course, we don't get drunk at the games. So you win that one a little bit. So
there is a big trade.
And we can't get drunk during this show, at least not as drunk as maybe some of you guys are to try to
Mark's
go.
got a drink.
Let's do 1 or 2 more and get out of here. What do we got?
Eric says, what's the probability of Cooper Kupp ending up in the AFC North? Is it 100% or 110% now that he's been released?
Who would it be? I guess who would sign Cooper Kupp? It's not here.
I couldn't. Baltimore has their old receiver now. They've never been a true slot team anyway. With how much 12 they do, I don't see it happening in the AFC North.
Yeah, I don't know where Cooper Kupp's going to end up. I think it's no one loved Cooper Kupp more than Sean McVay. So if Sean McVay is giving up on Cooper Kupp, you probably know about where his level of play is currently. For his sake, because he's so much fun to watch, I hope he finds a little fountain of youth somewhere. Speaking
of Kupp, slot receiver prediction, Andre Yoshivach gains 10 pounds of muscle in the offseason and is more of a power slot in 2025. He's out here laying blocks. That's a slot prediction for 2025.
Let's not right now, Charlie. Not right now.
What else do we have?
What? I don't know. I just can't. Right. You're right. We're so deep. At this point. What does it matter? All right.
People want Charlie to chug a beer. So the threshold was pretty high coming into this show because the Bengals had to sign Simmons, do a big splash. Now Robert says we should lower the threshold. So Charlie should have to chug a beer just after the Bengals sign any external free agent. That's where we're at right now. We need Charlie to step up and inspire us all. That'll give the team some motivation maybe to get a deal done.
Well, we just need a majority of us to okay that, right? So I vote yes. Anybody else, Jay? Yeah.
All right. There we go.
3-1. How about
Charlie?
That? All right.
I've seen Charlie drink a beer. Charlie, have you ever chugged a beer?
I guess we'll have to find out.
Oh,
right.
Tomorrow night.
What takes it from chugging to shotgunning one?
That's a great question.
That's a good question.
Shotgunning, okay. But this has to be a tier even riskier. So if the Bengals now go out and get the best free agent on the board, more unlikely, cornerback Asante Samuel, I'll shotgun the beer.
There we go.
Wow.
We got 2 available players now. Simmons is the chug. Samuel is the shotgun.
Wow, you heard it here first, folks. I'm glad we keep adding. Every night we keep adding more options. You know what? We just keep going until we get to an episode where Charlie actually chugs a beer. Even if we end up at April 8th, right? We go every night until we get
I'm about undrafted free agents.
Right. Yeah. We just keep raising the stakes until Charlie's in rehab at this point. You know, it's going to get
We
bad.
just need
for him.
one. We just need one. I did see somebody asking where the Norwood Lateral shirt came from. I do have my Norwood Lateral shirt on. Cincy shirts. That's a Cincy shirt special. They're Norwood. They have a whole line of Norwood stuff they just put back out, actually. I just saw it today. They have like a Norwood spring break shirt. They got the Lateral shirt. There's a few other ones. Highly recommend going to Cincy Shirts website and perusing their Norwood section. It's full of goodies if you got any love for the wood like I do. So thanks for somebody for noticing there in the chat. Appreciate that. That's great.
Well, this has been a fun hang still for the four of us, even though today wasn't what we expected it to be. I am very confident tomorrow will be News Year. Tomorrow night will be even more fun.
Why are you confident of that?
Because it has to. At some point, it has
Go
to.
back to Thursday.
Something has to happen.
Look, when I just feel like when they go low, we go high. Like we get better. The worse it goes for them, the better we go. All right. So I'm here for whatever it's going to be. So we'll have that tomorrow night. One more. Maybe we can get Charlie to shotgun or chug a beer. We'll have to see what happens. You will have to come back tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so that you know that you can know we're going live as soon as we do it. But 9:00 tomorrow night, we'll be back for one more run, and maybe we'll have some stuff to talk about. But thanks to everybody that showed up tonight on the YouTube channel, in the chat, and all you guys that have been following along and listening in the feed. We will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.